Hi, everyone. Welcome to Launch Network. Carmine Danisco here. We have an awesome show for you today on Made in America with my friend, my co-host, Mr. Christopher Guerrera. Chris, what's happening, man?
Hey, Carmine, this really has been a lot of fun. I'll tell you, every episode seems to get better. You know, the Wi-Fi is better, the guests are better. It gets better and better, and we have a lot of fun, and I'm getting a lot of good feedback, and the information is invaluable, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing it because we enjoy it, and we want to help people, inventors, and folks that are going into the market. So this has just been, for me, an absolute blast.
Yeah. Well, it's always good when you're not freezing.
Yep.
And the Wi-Fi works. It always takes that little less stress off you. But one real quick thing before we bring our guest on, which is going to be an awesome show today. You had some big announcement, man. You got your product going, I see.
Woo-hoo! Yeah, it took a while. The tiny hook, and there it is, baby. And the case display. It's in Walmart. I just sent in over the final insurance information today. They had to validate all of that, right? But that's it. Now I'm waiting for that big PO. But
Wow.
it was not an easy task, right? We started this like the Super Potty Trainer, and this is my other big hit that I love, and we'll talk about that later. But we also got that in the Walmart. A little bit different. That got in quicker before COVID. The Tidy Hook was going to get in after COVID, and then that just, you know how that went. Everything got moved from the spring to the fall. Had to do it all over again, new pitches, and I think I started the paperwork process in November of last year and got final approval yesterday.
Wow. Yeah. The one thing about this type of business, if you're not a person that dots all your I's, crosses all your T's, make sure everything's correct, get someone else to do this for you, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because when I started out with this, you remember we did a show on it. This is my third iteration of packaging. This is the final one that got approved. And each packaging was good for the moment, but when you start really getting into retail, it's got to be snazzy. That looks pretty bright, right in the background. It catches your eye, it brings you over to it. They want that whole 5 feet, 5 second rule of thumb. Ultimately, you want it in the middle aisle when you walk into Walmart. It hits you in the face, but you need some sales revenue for that. So we're going to work towards that.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the great parts about it is our guest here, man, he has taken a lot of products to market. No doubt about it. He's a best-selling author. Why don't you go ahead and introduce him?
Yeah, again, this show just gets better and better. And today we're going to bring on Warren Tuttle, who's now not only is he been helping inventors for, I want to say how long because I might age him. I think he's older than us, so we want to keep that down low. But he's truly got incredible knowledge. He knows how to pick the winners, and he's had his stumbling blocks too. And I thought today would be a good day to talk about it a little bit. Warren with his new book, Inventor Confidential. Welcome, Warren. We're really glad to have you on the show today.
Hey, Chris, it's great to be here, and congrats on the Walmart breakthrough. And it's gonna do super until you get those first chargebacks. But you know
Don't forget, I got this one in Walmart. So I know.
We don't like talking about chargebacks.
Another show.
That's great. I don't know if people realize how hard that is, and how much work. And I know you can talk about it, but until you walked a mile in your shoes, so congratulations on.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of misconception how difficult it really is, and I work with a couple of people like Brandy Lewis, who's been a buyer and done a lot of that. So she has a lot of good side information and knowledge of Walmart. Again, it's really important. We talk about having the right network, right? I mean, you can't be everything to everybody. We've talked about that over and over, Carmine. And Warren, you know that better than anybody. I mean, you do a lot of licensing deals. You see a lot of products. Who better than you to talk about that?
Well, and there's so many people in our industry that are not real or handing out advice, getting paid for thin air, and you're a doer and you make it happen. And by the way, folks, that makes all the difference. Okay, are you on the varsity? Did you actually rush for 1,000 yards, or are you just playing fantasy football? That's what
You're so right. We're going to talk about Shark Tank a little bit this afternoon. We got really a nice day today. Another big show this afternoon. But it's the same thing, right? I had an opportunity to be on Shark Tank Good Morning America, and then actually going on the Shark Tank, the real show, it's very, very different. But I also feel like I have that process now. I understand how to do it. And like Carmine said, and Warren, it's not for everybody. It's a lot of work. And
Yeah, this is going
you
to be.
haven't walked it, you don't know it.
We have you this show today, and then this afternoon the Shark Tank. This is the greatest day of my life since I played Cypress and Pebble Beach the same day. So
you played both the same day.
Same day, yeah.
Those are two fantasy courses there.
That was the best day of my life till today.
Here we go, Carmine. We did it again. Another notch. All right, so let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about Inventor Confidential and talk about maybe you could break up the book in halves, right? First half, second half, and about product development. I lived it my whole life. I've been doing it from early age 13. I've been designing and have that passion for engineering. So go ahead, let's talk about it a little bit.
Sure. Well, listen, first of all, the book, the name Inventor Confidential, I was inspired by the book Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. And he was the gentleman that had a show on CNN, Parts Unknown, and it was sort of a travel food show. And his book that he wrote years ago was called Kitchen Confidential. I always thought that was kind of cool. Now his book, Kitchen Confidential, a little different than my book. It was a lot of stuff going on inside of kitchens that was different. Mine, though, I was inspired to let's tell the real story of really what's going on in this industry, because what happens is naive, young, not even young, old, all types of inventors, but naive and inexperienced inventors, come into our space, and that, and they see all this marketing, and they start shelling out money, for stuff that some of it's not bad information, but it doesn't really get them over the hump, and most of the time it doesn't help them to financial success. So my book is more about, I wanted to get the profit motive in there, about what really goes on. And then, of course, I'm telling my story from the inside of companies, because I actually run open innovation companies, or open innovation programs for large companies. I actually sit inside the boardroom when the decisions are made, and I'm going to tell the inventors what it really looks like from the inside. So we want to kind of peel the cover back and give the confidential underbelly of this industry and try to alert people to what's up.
I think that's that's a point you hit hard, right? I really got involved. I've been doing development for a long time. I really launched Pace about 8 years ago, but really jumped in it full time, going on 3 years now. And I think the most important thing is credibility, right? Is being honest and being straightforward. And not every product is great, and not every product is going to be cheap, and it's going to be different to launch a product versus license a product. I think the more you tell it up front, the more credibility you have.
Well, and you come into this industry, like you said, you've been here 3 years, but prior to that with a whole lot of experience and knowledge, real experience and real knowledge. I talk about that in my book. I started as a buyer in New York City. I got the living crap beat out of me for years. Okay. Before, it's like going in the Marines and going to, Paris Island or whatever and getting trained and then going into battle. You learn all these necessary things. You've learned that. And then when you come into this industry, you look around, and it takes a little while to get acclimated. I mean, I've been doing this now since 1997, so I've been in about 24 years. But, you look around, and then all of a sudden it hits you one day that a lot of people out there don't have the classic training, the classic background, and so forth. So I can see in your development, even as I've known you for the last couple of years, how much you've learned and how much more you learn. And even today, getting into Walmart, how much, and you're using that knowledge, but you're coupling it with a really solid foundation, and that's meaningful. And I've tried to do the exact same thing and tell that story, because there's just so many folks just throw up a shingle in this industry, start yapping, and they haven't really accomplished a whole lot. And so it's hard, they're good marketers a lot of times, and it's really hard to tell the difference.
And you're right, that is a big deal. It's a lot of hot air. I think Carmine and I spent a lot of time talking about, when we do the show, we talked a lot about lean in the beginning and process controls and how to produce product in the US and do it competitive, and how do you remove waste. That stuff is not scripted. I mean, you can tell the way we're talking about it. I mean, we can go into it as detailed as we need to or touch the top surface, but end of the day, you're right. That whole background, I've been doing engineering work since I was 13 years old. I mean, what kid makes a decision at 13, right? That stays with him his entire life. It's not heard of, right?
Most kids want to play shortstop for the Yankees.
Exactly.
You wanted to run a car plant.
I knew better. I knew better. I loved it, but I knew I wasn't going to be a shortstop for the Yankees.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? I mean, come on. But here's the thing, though, Chris. So your expertise is in manufacturing, which is one sentence, but it represents yours. Mine is I started as a buyer in New York City at Abraham and Strauss. I was a kid from Connecticut that fell off the truck in Brooklyn, New York, right, and was adopted, and I learned the hard way, just as you did. And my skill base initially was in product selection. It was in margins. It was negotiating contracts. It was sourcing goods, getting them made. I'm not an expert in manufacturing. I'll tell you that right up front. But I was very good in getting it from the manufacturer's, the plant door into the U.S. I could track a shipment. I actually had a shipment. I haven't told the ship. I had a shipment of Christmas ornaments that I was tracking in from Korea, and the ship sank. Okay, I mean, really, no kidding. When I went to my boss and said they're not going to be here in the ship sank, they said, "Oh yeah, right." So I had to get all the numbers and everything to prove it. But I could track anything, Chris, like any pronoun. I could track. I knew when the truck driver was stopping at Howard Johnson's, to get a burger and take a pee. I could track it in, and then I got to know the warehouse and the distribution, all of that fulfillment. I got to know all that stuff of running a department, running your own business, and then I started my own business, which was a single, kitchen shop like Williams-Sonoma in Connecticut. And we had really high-end housewares. But then I grew it into, 6 locations, a food business, a catering business, a cooking school, a design company. I had 65 employees. One of my partners was Paul Newman. We were rocking the house. We were doing over $4 million out of about 4,000 square feet. And we were one of the top gourmet stores in America. So like you, I have a different set of skills, but it's very, very much all the things that I help inventors with today. I've been through the process from scratch.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. I talk about being an engineer, and I was a director of engineering for Ford, and then I moved over to BMW. It was an interesting story. And I started out as an engineering manager and quickly got promoted to plant manager. And I'm a young kid, I'm 31, and I'm running, at the time, $65 million company, which became a $180 million division, applied just-in-time product to the plant. So now I have purchasing, engineering, HR, accounting, logistics.
I probably bought one of your cars. You realize that?
I'm sure you did. I mean, they were all reporting to me. You talk about
if I had known that at the time.
Yeah, and then they send me out of the plant early on to learn Lean Six Sigma all over the world. Yeah,
that's great.
So I mean, the training was invaluable, and it's as I always tell my older boy, he always had this vision of making a lot of money really quick, which is a good goal, but it's not reality. And I always try to explain to him, here's what reality is after you leave college. Now, what you do with it is going to be a different task than what somebody else does with it, but this is what reality looks like.
That's right.
And I think you're right. Being able to go through all of it makes you that much more valuable when you launch products.
Well, and getting that training at a young age too is when you have the energy. I was a buyer at A&S at 23. I graduated from college at 21, and I set a record at the time for Federated, and I was the biggest department. And by the way, I would not have done it if I didn't have a boss who was my rabbi, who looked after me, and I couldn't have done it on my own. He was training me and so forth. I dedicated the book, in addition to my wife, to my rabbi there, Bob Reichenbach, who was like the Bobby Knight. He was like, always pushing you, always push. But he's one of those guys that after you play for him, you realize that, man, you were fortunate to get someone to really train you, right, Chris? Like, I'm sure your boss is training you.
I'll tell you, that was in the beginning, you say, how much training can I get in that little bit of time? Because it was I always felt like I was learning early on. But then when you start really applying it and you become the #1 plant in the world, you're an American and a BMW and primarily a French type of design group, you get noticed pretty quick. So you go to these big meetings in Germany and your numbers are better than anybody's in the world. Wow. And you think about, wow, in 2 years, look what I've done.
Pretty soon you're speaking German, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous.
Around. Guten Tag begins.
Yeah. The Oktoberfest, I speak the best German in Oktoberfest.
Yeah, Zweimal Bier kalt. Well, that's, well, you need that background. And then if you really want to help people in this industry, which I've been doing for years, you want to give them solid advice. There's just so many people that will pretty much say whatever they want. And by the way, Chris, like you, I don't charge people,
Mhm.
and my business model is entirely built on, originally it was partnering with inventors on the back end, and I didn't make any money unless they made money. And then I graduated to running open innovation programs for large companies. And so there's a certain skill set, as you know, working for a large company, because you've got to, blend in with that. But at the same time, they pay me, so I don't take any money, which is similar to you. So that puts, I like to stay on that side of the river. Look, in this industry, if you're helping inventors, you're either on the paid side or you're on the not paid side, or maybe you're actually a manufacturer or a company that's producing goods yourself, like a TV company or something. So that's maybe a third angle to it. But as far as the advice givers, do you charge or do you not? And then I go in extensively in the book. If you're an inventor and someone's charging you, then you have the right to ask a lot of questions, right? Because if you don't, you're not doing your due diligence, because a lot of these people don't actually publish their success numbers, And so that's what I find. And that's what gets under my skin a lot of times, that people are out charging, and do they really help at the end of the day?
Hey, real quick, hey Warren, Chris, I know you have there's differences between people that a submission type company, and then where what you do, open innovation. Can you explain real quick the two? Because open innovation is really put in place to help people get products in the right spot, right?
That's right. It's a good question. So open innovation, Carmine, and I spend a whole chapter in this in the book, is really the art or science of companies looking outside their four walls for new products. So open innovation is corporate based for the most part. I mean, there could be small companies, but you're talking usually about large companies. And some of the larger companies like Lever Brothers or Procter & Gamble have 600-700 people in the open innovation department. So they're all out looking for things. Procter & Gamble is the classic. In the 60s, everything was developed in-house. Today, 50% of their new products come from outside the company.
Amazing.
So not every company runs open innovation programs. In fact, it's probably a small percentage. But those that do, can take advantage. So I run them for 3 companies, for Lifetime Brands, which I've been doing for 15 years, which is the largest non-electric housewares company in the U.S. I did it for many years for the power tool company Tektronix Industries, that makes Ryobi and rigid power tools. And I also do it currently for Merchant Media, DRTV company. But basically what I do there is I look outside the walls of the company, and I handle all outside submissions. I vet them, I get them ready, so that the people in the company don't get distracted. They have their daytime jobs. That's entirely different from either inventor submission or inventor marketing or inventor coaching companies, which are companies that are out giving advice or help to inventors in a variety of ways. Now, submission companies, technically take submissions from inventors. They help prepare them to go out in licensing. They may add other services like building prototypes and patents and so forth. But and then they oftentimes represent the inventors to take it out to someone like me, who's actually on the corporate side. I'm actually representing companies. So I always say in the book, I'm a buyer. My whole background's been a buyer. I'm a buyer and a decision maker. They're a seller of products. But you also have within invention marketing world, that side of it that we talked about, and they take money from inventors directly. Also inventor coaches, okay? And some of them are independent, and some of them, are larger factories that process a lot of inventors through. And those folks, they're different in a sense that they're all of the sort of the marketing umbrella or the invention industry umbrella. But those folks pretty much get paid, for either giving advice on how to get ready or how to pitch someone, and basically, a slightly more educational approach. But they don't provide a whole lot other than advice, but they do charge handsomely.
But they also,
and Warren,
go ahead, Chris.
And I was saying, and I also look at it as, nobody knows the next big success story.
That's right.
Right? There's some products you don't think will sell, do sell, and then some you think won't, right? So
Absolutely.
You can't be promising things up front. And that's something I think I take a lot of pride in, because I always just put it out black and white. And I probably lose a lot of opportunity because that's what I do. I'd rather tell you what I think it will cost to launch a product than have you get halfway in it and have buyer's remorse.
Well, I think that's such a great point. And so again, if we can go back to those who take money and those who don't, okay? For those that, so what happens is, and I have a whole section on this in the book called, cash flow. I think everybody gets into this business for the right reason. They're enthused. Maybe they've had a product that they've tried to get to market themselves. The whole innovation space is exciting to them. And so they jump in to start helping people. I think in the beginning they do. And then they try to come up with different models. They try to team up with the inventors like I did or you did, Chris, and they try but what happens is invariably, because there's a 99% failure rate, or 95, let's just say 95+% failure rate. Okay. Trust me, it's closer to 99%, but let's just say, 95%. They realize that there's not enough, like you just said, it's hard to call a winner, and there's no cash coming in. So they have to change their model. Okay. And I say it goes from a profit-driven model, right? I'm glad we're getting into this because I haven't talked about this to a cash flow-driven model. And what's the difference? Profit means you and I, Chris, or Carmine, the three of us get together, we all put our money in, we make a profit, we split it, we profit together, right? That's not what they're doing. The difference would be the three of us go into business and we just charge other people, and we don't develop anything that is a charge. So they realize that in order to make money consistently and have a consistent cash flow so that they can pay their employees and keep the doors open and the phone lines going, that they have to charge inventors. So now instead of inventors, partnering with them and gaining success and sharing in the profit afterwards, they're charging inventors up front for their service and whatever that may be. And that's a cash flow oriented. And then what happens, I always see it every single time. Okay. The switch happens, and suddenly it becomes more about them and their business and their cash flow and less about the inventor. And suddenly they're the ones that are on all the ads, and they're the ones with the big egos that get, and it's not about the inventor. Yeah, they do every so often have a little thing for the inventor if they get a licensing deal. And let's come back to that, because licensing deals are like getting patents. They don't mean anything in terms of profit. But funny enough, it's always an ode to them about all that they did. It's all about them. It's all about their cash flow. And when you really look at the numbers at the end of the day, they're the only ones that are making money. So it's a lot of times like the weight loss business or the house flipping business. You have these gurus and guess what? They're charging money and you're paying them for weight loss, but do you ever actually lose any weight, and what are the real odds for success? So I try to talk about this in the book about what really happens and what differentiates people like us from others.
And Carmine, we talked about this as well. This is not an easy business. I mean, I have people giving me hand sketches and thinking that in 6 weeks, 3 months, it's going to be in a retail shelf. I mean, it's not an easy business, and it's not for the weak, especially launching. I mean, I can speak to launching because that's what I do, right? There's a long process of designing it right, making sure the material selection is good, picking the right partners, doing proof of concept, and then there's a lot of capital involved with that up front. And then even when you get into retail, you've laid out a lot of cash, you don't see any payback from them for 90 to 120 days. And then there's the licensing side. So this is your expertise, Warren. So talk a little bit about that. Yeah. Talk about the do's and the don'ts and what the right path is.
Yeah. So to your point, though, a lot of times these marketers, I'm putting them under one umbrella, the people who charge for their services, are always putting out these subliminal messages. It's simple, easy. There's gold mines. They've touched products, and when you dive into it, it's not real. I have this thing that I say that it's always the people that sell the picks, the shovels, and the axes that make more money than the gold miners. Because it's so hard to find the gold out there. And this is sort of my peeve in my. They all have different models, but it's like, okay, that's fine, but tell people up front, turn down some clients, but they never do. They take everybody, even though they don't have a chance. And guess what? When their students and or their clients or anyone comes to me, and I'm the one that has to tell them that it's not going to make it, I'm doing it for free, and they're getting paid for it. And then these people always feign shock, they haven't been told. So anyway, thank you for letting us get that off our chest. But you asked a question about going to market itself. So, Chris, basically, there's two ways to get to market. One is licensing or working through others, and the other is going to market on your own. And I address both things in the book. Now, my sense is that the vast majority of people license. Why? For all the reasons you just spoke about before, because it's so hard, it's so difficult. People don't have your skill set and your background. So it's better to turn it over. And why not turn it over to a larger company if you possibly can? Because they have the brands, they have the resources, they have the capital. They're your angel investor in addition to being everything else. The only thing is, when you license, you have to be prepared. And this idea that you're being taught by some people that, send in an idea or patents are not that important or prototypes, complete bullshit, okay? You need to be ready. And I'm old school and I go through that extensively in the book. If you're going to go the licensing route, you must be prepared. And under any circumstances, the more prepared you are, the better licensing deal you'll get on top of everything else. But the odds are still extremely long, but at least you're not failing in the marketplace. I've had that experience. I have a whole chapter on failure. I've had the experience of losing, close to $1 million on a project. So I know how that feels, and that taught me a lot of stuff. So licensing, working through others is a way to get to market without risking your own capital. However, you must be prepared, and I spent a half a book. The other is going to market on your own. I have a chapter in the book called The 30 Steps of Going to Market Alone. And that's all those things you're talking about. Everything from production, tooling, shipping, land bridging, warehousing, fulfillment, sales teams, orders, collecting the money, reinvesting it, and all that stuff. So we try to cover all that ground so that people have the facts in front of them before they make that decision.
And Carmine, you do a lot of it abroad. I obviously do all of mine in the US, which I feel it's simpler, and I've simplified that process, but it's not for everybody, right? Not every product fits that. So, I know you can speak to that better, Carmine, because when you think about that, Warren, what you said about launching it, how much additional work it is, and how much more waiting, and we have products on boats, and you had to pay for it up front. And Carmine, you're more familiar with that than anybody.
Yeah, one of the things that, and I don't know if you guys experience this, but as Warren says, most of my day I spend speaking with inventors who either have given money and gotten nothing for free. I talk to inventors, and one I can help out of maybe 100. But the problem that I run into is that inventors are constantly bombarded by other people giving them these promises that I'll help them for 3 months. And then all of a sudden they'll say, oh, I went with somebody else. I'm having somebody else work with me. I mean, does that happen to you, Warren? I mean, I know you do so much.
See, Carmine, you're actually offering physical goods and services, drafting, mechanical CADs, the production of goods. That's an actual service. Just like if someone's needs help getting a patent, they're paying an attorney. There's actual physical. That's different from just the advice giving world. Which is we'll give you advice, or we'll give you a telephone directory of names and so forth. But yeah, I think that people and so what happens is the less knowledgeable inventors are, the easier they are to take their money with. Okay, it is so ridiculously easy to make. I could easily make over $1 million next year just taking money from inventors, running seminars, charging them $249. I have enough. I've helped over 100,000 inventors. I could convert that. I don't know how long it would last. I could tell you I could make $1 million next year if I want to. But I don't do that. I don't cross that river, because once you go that route, that's who you are. And now, in terms of what my standards are and your standards and the people I like to hang with, I have a different future in mind. And fortunately, I get paid nicely by the companies, and I don't have to worry about cash flow. So you can stay above that fray. But that's why when you're out there and you see all these ads, a subliminal message that there's gold mines, or you could buy this ranch, and it's just enough to makes my stomach churn sometimes. So we're trying to get out there and explain to people what the difference between goods and services are, between why some people charge and legitimately and others don't, and what questions to ask. It's a big part of the book. I mean, the first half of the book is all about product development and doing things the right way, and sort of, if nothing else, get acclimated with what's around you before you go ahead. The second half of the book, I talk about Washington, D.C., the big tech companies, patent reform, and all those other things, that get in the way as well. But the first half is all about hardcore stuff of what you guys are about all the time.
Warren, you hit a key point for me, and that's being prepared. So I want to spend a little bit more time on that, because I can't tell you how many people I speak with that don't have a sell sheet, haven't done their due diligence, haven't done any work really, and they just think it's a quick handoff. So talk about that, like patent, like what are you licensing? Right? You have to have some type of intellectual property or something that somebody's going to license from you. And having a sell sheet and proof of concept and prototypes, all of that is, like you said, being prepared, I think is, like, for me as an engineer, is even more critical, that I know I've got a good product and it's going to work. Now I got to convince others. So the more I have, the easier that becomes to convince somebody it's a great product.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, we all have dreams, right? When I was a kid, I wanted to be a hockey player, and not only just a hockey player, I wanted to play for the Rangers. The only problem is I never could learn how to skate backwards. Okay. So, but we learned that, right? We learned that when we're 10, 11, and 12, you know, that and we switch gears, right? What happens in the inventor world, a lot of people come into with the same type of dreams, but maybe they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Nobody's ever really told them, you know, that you're not prepared. You know, I talk about that a little bit in the book, you know, about you know, you may have ideas, but a lot of people have ideas, and there's nothing necessarily special about that. It's the people that convert it, like, you know, you, Chris, and Carmine, our guest this afternoon, and so forth, you know, that are the special people that take it to the next level. So if you really want to get there, you need to learn the right way. And a lot of people come in so naive. And what happens is there's always someone, it's America, there's always someone on the other side that when you have a dream, they'll sell you something. They'll sell you something right off that dream, you know? And so that's what, if you're trying to stay on our side of the river, that makes it kind of frustrating. But what you need, you know, what besides getting, you know, just the idea is you need to vet that idea. You need to, and I lay this out pretty specifically in the beginning. Sure, talk to friends and family, that's fine. But as everybody knows, you know, they tell you what you want to hear, and you know that sure, it sounds like a great idea. But try to get out into the marketplace and try to, you know, not during COVID times, if you have a hardware product, go over and talk to your favorite salesman at Home Depot. Find out what they think about it. Start getting feedback from experts in the industry, not just, you know, people who are just general all around, you know, ne'er-do-wells, you know, or the guy at the bar, you know, that you talk to, you know, talk to someone who knows something about it so they can start telling you the challenges. And then you really, Chris, need to develop the product physically, okay? It's really so important from the beginning. Now, if you don't have the skill set, then you're going to have to look around for someone that can help you with that. But you need to build it out mechanically because you need to prove it functions. These folks that just send in drawings or CADs or, you know, sell sheets with nothing on them, you know, I can look at them, and I just had one this week that I'm talking to the head of product development in Lifetime Brands, and he said, you can't do it for these reasons, for these 8 reasons. He said, don't these inventors know that? No, they don't know that. They don't know that because they're not in the production side of it. So you need to vet through that. Meanwhile, the people that charge you money say, yeah, sure, we'll show you how to market and get your idea out there. But nobody's ever checking and said the goddamn thing can't be built. Okay, it just can't be built, right? And I've been through this. I've licensed things that we put 50, 60 grand in and found out it can't be built. So you need to prove function. And it's something I've gotten much smarter over the years. So I'm going to challenge you on that when you send it in. Does it really work? Does it really know? Well, I saw something, I heard something. That doesn't cut it. I want to know, does it work? So you need to go through that process. But then the secondary benefit of going through that process is then you can work out the physical characteristics that are patentable. Okay, so the mechanics of it, so that you can use that to apply for utility patent to make sure your product is different than anything else that functions. And those two things, building physical prototypes and patents together, okay, that are used properly, are what becomes the basis for a licensing deal. And yes, patents are under siege, but without a patent, you have no physical property that you can license to bigger companies. So this is all start of the initial prep that you do. And then, of course, once you get that all down and you're ready, then you need to market in the right way. Sell sheets, very important. Video is even more important these days. And you need to communicate politely and effectively with people like me to get your idea across, which we again lay out in the book.
See, Carmine, classic.
I'm freaking out because I hear the opposite from so many people online.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, you've never seen this side of me. I'm always laughing and joking, but when I'm serious as an assassin when this stuff comes in.
I love it. I mean, well, the thing is, you know, you're not making this up. You've been doing this for years, but you could tell how you're speaking and rattling this off is that you do it every day. Every day,
multiple times a day. Well, while we're doing this interview, I'll get 2 or 3 submissions. It's the same. I say in the book, these marketers can see you coming years in advance. You know, you may be special, but you're really not in this world.
Classic, because that's what I find a lot of people who are already selling me on the product, and they haven't done any physical proof of concept. So I always ask, did you prove this out? Does it work?
I had a
3D rendering.
I had one this morning, Chris. Sent it in. It was a. I shouldn't say what it is, but it was like a spoon with like a coolant in it. You know, I've been working with coolant since Dambier. I launched the Dambier ice cream maker many years ago. We went on to sell millions of them. And so I'm very familiar with coolants. Okay. So the idea was this is something that's been around for 30 years, you know? So it's a spoon, you put a little coolant and put it in your freezer. And then when kids have a cocoa or something that's too hot, they can put the spoon. So listen, first of all, I've seen about 20 of these already, okay, over the years. And number 2, my first question, have you built one? No, but I know it could work. So I checked it out anyway. I talked to a few people at Lifetime Brands. They have no interest in it. We've seen them before, so I politely get back to the inventor. It's just not for us. It's not going to work. And I usually lay out 2 or 3 reasons why. Instead of saying thank you, she wrote back saying, I'm so shocked and surprised, that this, I thought this would be a winner for, well, listen, what you think with no experience and what I think with 10,000 hours and 25 years of experience are 2 different things, and so I'm, you need to read the book. You need to learn that there's a bigger world beyond you, and you need to get more experience to realize how difficult, to your point before, Chris, how this really is.
And I can market and sell anything to anyone. I feel that strong about it. I'm not a typical engineer, but I can't, not knowing that there's no functionality or any proof of concept. That's in my DNA. So my first step is to make sure that I have something, both material composition, design-wise, will be robust and will work as I see it before I go out and sell it.
And by the way, at the right price.
Yeah, of course.
Because you can build
that's
it.
That's a deal breaker across the board if it's not the right price.
That's right. So it needs to all. I always say this, Chris. For I don't mean to leave out people who aren't baseball fans, but there's a lot of people that can throw a rock 95 miles an hour. There's very, 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 very few that can throw it over the plate from 67 feet and put it between the knees and the shoulders. That's a whole different skill set, right? So this is what we're talking about here. If you really want to be a rock star, it's more than just strumming the guitar in your family room. You gotta take the show on the road, and you got to learn from it. And this is what we try to tell people. And the thing is in the writing business, which is very similar, like I found in my book, going out and pitching is very similar to pitching a product. You don't have people that are like coaching you and say, we'll teach you how to write and you'll make $1 million. Maybe you have people that teach you how to write, but they don't put the tail end of it. For some reason, in the inventor world, there's always this subliminal message. We'll teach you things, but also, you can have these dreams to make millions. And it's always a subliminal message. And that's why we set up the UIA as a nonprofit to try to alert and warn people about this type of stuff. And that's why other organizations that sound like us are fake, because they're not real. They're extensions of business models. And this is why people wonder why I get frustrated about it and I care, but it's just, I do. And it's what really, it's frustrating sometimes.
Tell us what you really think.
Hey, where can everybody get all this free information, Carmine?
By the way, Carmine, Jimi Hendrix is the greatest guitar player of all time, and Jack Nicholson is the greatest actor. If we can't agree on those things, we can't move.
Exactly right. So real quick, Warren. I know that we always run low on time. When I'm a new inventor guy and I'm approaching some people to find out if they're real, they're not real. Are there some specific questions I can ask?
Yeah.
Obviously, we want to buy your book. And I know you go through a lot of stuff, but is there a certain 1 or 2 questions that I can ask that
if it's an individual that you're hiring to help you, find out what their successes are, their own personal successes, or if they've helped others. And by the way, if they sold, ask them how many units they sold and how much profit they made and all those things, because if they've done a couple of products that have sold 10,000 units, that's not a lot of experience. I want to hear someone who's sold in the millions, and really, has got real life experience. Or if they don't have that experience, they should be very honest and say, I don't have that experience, but I have some experience and I'm trying to learn more and I'll partner with you, something like that. But these people that are out there saying you can make $5,000 a month, passive income and blah, 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 you got to vet that. Now, the bigger companies that are more like factories that have hundreds, if not thousands of people coming through, if not even 1 year over a period of time, and they claim to, have successes with, licensing, you need to pine down, and I have the whole list of questions there, but how many people have you coached? How many people have come through your program? How many thousands? Tell me about, how many have actually signed a licensing deal? What percentage of that? Oh, it's 3%. Okay. All right. And then how many of those who have signed licensing deals have actually made enough money back to pay for the program? And when those numbers come out, they will hem and haw. They will go all over the map. They will be like a politician just got caught with his hands in the cookie jar, humming and hawing and trying to get out of it. They will do everything possible to get around that issue, but they probably won't reveal their real numbers. But find out what the success rates are, And it's not just one person. If they've coached 4,000 or 5,000 people and they only have one success, you should know that. Now, if you still choose to use them afterwards, that's fine. And if you have plenty of money. But geez, I've talked to people who are at the poverty line. I'm on the National Pro Bono Patent Council. And two people that came and qualified for pro bono patents because they're popular have had to borrow money to pay these programs and stuff. It's enough to make you shudder sometimes. So look, if you're a surgeon and you're making millions and you want to, big deal. You're not the person I'm worried about. I'm worried about a person with limited resources. But here's what's happened. Once you pay these folks, do you have enough left over to build your prototype, to pay for your patent, to go to a trade show like we run at the hardware show, with all the booth pavilions? By the way, these coaches are always like, well, you don't have to do all that other stuff. Why? Because they want to be paid. Okay. So you have to put it in the trough, and everybody's different, and you have to make up the decision that's right for you. But ask these questions of these people and reveal it. Let's get this whole discussion out in the front burner, because not enough people are asking the question.
And I do, it's interesting. I have a guideline because every product's different. Every product costs different to launch, right? But I use real numbers. Like, what did it take to launch the Super Body Trainer? What did it take to launch the Tidy Hook? And these are done in, talk about data. I mean, that's my whole life. I'm a data-driven guy. That's what automotive teaches you, working for Ford and BMW and all these companies. They teach you to make decisions on real data. And so I use this as a guideline. This is what it truly costs to launch this product. Here's a packaging cost. Here's the tooling cost. Here's the piece price cost, and a lean manufacturing environment.
But see, here's the problem, Chris. You can only handle, if you're like me, we only have so much bandwidth.
Right.
People said to me, well, why don't you run out this open innovation program like into a big factory? Well, then it loses its, the hands-on nature of it. And if you help, 10 people or something, there's another 100,000 behind them that are not being helped. So that's kind of why I wrote the book, to try to at least lay the platform out there of these are the things that. Now, my book is not about making money for me. Okay, it's and by the way, I describe profit as both not only selling more but also saving your shekels. Watching your costs. So that's another way to become profitable. So I don't know if my book will sell it or be as popular as the ones that say, hey, they're gold mines and, blah, 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 and selling, because everybody wants to, thinks that they're buying dreams. But mine's a reality check. And, be prepared when you read the book. A lot of it's first person singular, but it's heavy lessons repeated over and over again for the benefit of waking people up. After you read it, you ask the questions, you go through your due diligence, then do what you have to do, and don't look back. But try to do that before you, because I find with a lot of times with these coaches and stuff and other things, an inventor comes to them. And they don't even vet the idea. Okay, I see these ideas, and they charge them for all this. And instead of the inventor finding out that day that they've got nothing, they find out a year later after they spend thousands of dollars that they have nothing. And at the end of the day, that if it's going to fail, you should find out quickly, so you can move on to the next problem.
I think that's key. I talk about like life stories in general, going through life, and even with my kids, you don't realize what it's like to have nothing in your bank account because you went through something in your life that caused that problem, right, or that issue, but you found a way to come back from it. You can't truly understand the need until you've been through it, and it's the same thing here. You said it. I mean, Warren, you talk about things that you've been through and how you've lost a lot of money, and how you rebounded from it, how important all that is. And that's in the book. So this book is coming out when? March 23rd?
Yeah, March 23rd on Amazon. It'll ship. I just got my copy the other night. It's very exciting. I'll tell you what, my wife and kids who are all English majors in college are pissed off at me. I think it's a big joke that I'm an author. Not only that, a best-selling author with HarperCollins, the second biggest publishing company in the world. That was pretty cool, by the way, to get a deal with the second biggest publishing company in the world. This is not self-published, folks. This is not, just some, this has been edited, okay? And so that was pretty cool. They got me like a little Sherlock Holmes hat in a pipe. I was gonna wear it on the show today.
You should have. Well, you still got a chance to wear it this afternoon.
Don't do that. Hey, Warren, real quick, you were getting the audio version out. How was that recording in the studio?
Good question. Well, it's so funny because I spent 3 days in a little sound like a telephone booth in a studio in New York City, which, I had to commute into. And it's a lot of work. It's 7-hour days of reading, your own book. At some point you look up and go, who wrote this stuff? But it's, and then when you can't pronounce words that you wrote, that's really bad. But I had to go back in earlier this week to actually, they tape the whole thing, and then they come back, but there's always 50 or 60 spots where you have to reread sentences. It actually went pretty well, and I did that. So the audio version's coming out. It'll actually be my own voice. And by the way, if I said, well, if I don't read it, will you still do an audio version? Yeah, they said, well, we'll have someone else read it. I said, well, do you pay them? And they go, oh yeah. I said, what do you pay them? They said, oh, a couple $1,000. I said, okay, I'll read it. I'll take a couple $1,000. And you go, no. You don't get a couple of, I said, can we split it? I went to all my A&S tricks, trying to negotiate, but anyway.
That's funny.
And Carmine, where can somebody sign up for the UIA free membership?
The UIA,
talk about that.
As Warren was the president for 12 or so years, he knows very well. The UIA is UIAUSA.org. Great education, great information. Join up. That's our sole purpose, is to educate and help inventors, not only in the U.S., but throughout the world. And no one knows better than that is Warren, who's really dedicated his life to it.
Hey, and by the way, folks, if you buy the book or you pre-order it and you take a screenshot of your receipt and email it to me at www.tuttle@yahoo.com, I'm doing seminars, free 90-minute seminars in April that'll be advanced seminars on the book, and it's all free.
That's cool.
We'll sign you up for that.
Very cool stuff. All right. Well, cool. What
Another
about
great
you?
show full of information.
Yeah,
really appreciate it, Warren.
Listen, I appreciate you guys so much. You're both on the board of the UIA. You're both good friends, and I know you care deeply about this stuff. And that's me that appreciates what you do, and I thank you.
Well,
thank you.
Super proud of you, Warren. Warren, you got a lot of cool stuff going on. I know we'll be hearing a lot from you, not only on the book, but other stuff you have happening. It's really cool. So all you listeners out there, make sure you pick up Warren's book, Inventor Confidential. I get the audio version so I can listen while I'm driving, but I'm definitely going to get Warren, real quick, but is it in hardcover or just a soft cover?
It's, it was supposed to originally come out in hardcover, but, and it was supposed to come out in the fall, but COVID really changed both. First of all, it got moved back, which almost all books did. And then because of the move back and a bunch of things, it got as a tweener, so it's a soft cover. So instead of being $29.99, it's $19.99, but which is cool, but it's the same great content. And by the way, I have amazing endorsements from Ted Decker, the president and CEO of Home Depot, who's a friend, and Chan Kim, who wrote Blue Ocean Strategy, the best-selling business book in the history of the world, and Dave Kapos, who run Patent Office, and many, many awesome people. So check those. I have a website, inventorconfidential.com. You can read all about that.
Cool. Very cool. And Blue Ocean Strategy is another great book.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So, all right, we're going to close up the show today. Awesome. As usual, all you listeners out there, please go on out to Google Play, iTunes, wherever you consume your podcast. Also, check out our YouTube channel, which is the Launch Network. Also, check out the UIA TV channel. We got some great speakers on there. We got some really cool stuff happening. It's hard to keep up on all these things and announce it all, but we'd love to hear a review, rating. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a note. In case you want to hear questions, send them on over. And for Mr. Warren Tuttle, for Christopher Guerrera, and myself, Carmen Daniska, we thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Made in America. Mr. Christopher Guerrera. You all take care.